Alright, welcome back folks to another 1v1, this time between GUA, Give You Anxiety, one of the most frustrating and kind of experimental players I've seen in AoE 4 so far. For those that don't know, he was a pro player in other Age of Empires games, and I'm sure his opponent needs no introduction. You've all heard of him. It is the Snake, it is the Viper, Age of Empires 2 vet, and one of the best in the business. Is going to be playing on the Rust, while Give You Anxiety is on the Abbasid Dynasty in this 1v1. And Viper, just at the time of recording, hit first on the ELO leaderboard. He surpassed Tator and he surpassed Marine Lord now, so he's in that #1 spot. Give You Anxiety currently sitting in the 7th spot. And Give You Anxiety, I did say he played other Age of Empires games. He's actually an AoE 3 and an Age of Empires Online, I believe it is, player. So, you know, he played basically the top of those boards for both of those games for quite a while. And since his switch over to AoE 4, I've been really impressed by the way he's been playing the game. So honestly, I do think he's going to just emerge as a contender amongst the top pro players as the meta settles and the game kind of develops into a more sophisticated phase. That being said, I don't know if it's going to be on this map. Now, this is where we go into re-mode and vent mode, because for anyone who's looked down at the minimap, I don't know how I feel about this generation. Are you noticing something weird, guys? Apart from, like, the river looks a little bit skewed in favor, but that's a small detail, right, KP? Sure, that's a small detail. I'm more focused on the fact that every single one of the sacred sites is on Viper's side of the map. What? Yo, Relic, we got to talk about this generation, dog. I'm not sure about this one. This is a bit funky. And then, speaking of relics in a different form, 3 relics have also been generated on Viper's side of the river. Double deer really close by for the Rust player compared to the deer hidden right at the back, which, don't worry, GUA defined. And then these other ones on the side, which I believe, yeah, Viper got some of them because he was able to run across in a similar timing. So up to 190 bounty so far. And he just, what is he going to snipe? Oh, he couldn't get it. He was trying to snipe the sheep. Would have really just hurt the returns Viper's going to get here. Because remember, I mean, each sheep just makes this more profitable to send out an extra scout because they pay for themselves, right? But now, without the pressure on him from GUA, because remember, outside of Rust, no one else tends to spam scouts earlier outside of cheese strats. That gives plenty of time for Viper to now clean up the remaining deer stacks on his side of the map and then go hunting for the wolves. Which, by the way, when he returns these sheep, I think that is going to be enough if he finds one more to hit the tier 2 bounty unlock. And he's easily going to find a few wolves. Remember, wolves are actually hard to keep an eye on. Like, for GUA in this situation, even for Viper, right? Like, Viper's going to be more micro-intensive on his scout. But if you're looking back constantly, you might spot these wolves. But otherwise, it's very easy to miss wolves and pass by them unless they directly attack you. An immediate move out by Viper. So, yeah, he's going for the wall in. This is really strong, by the way. Remember, 4-5 Palisade walls are potent as hell. All right? Not only, like, they basically cost the same, but they are better. However, if you lose your workers to Spearmen, less so. Dude, GUA. He's actually scouting out everywhere with the Spearmen. I love this. So he doesn't want to get walled in. It's scouting info, but it's also preventing any sort of wall-in shenanigans that the Viper might attempt against him. And he's found the wolves, but no, Viper's also been found on his scout, so he's not going to get to snipe these. He's going to drag them back to the wolf now, so he'll take them all the way back to the TC, and they can't snipe these wolves in time. So really smart move by Viper. I say that, actually, he might be able to. So now this turns into a micro-intensive battle, as Viper has to keep an eye on this, because it's scout on scout to try and get rid of the wolf quick enough. And the spear, oh, he snatches one. That's 25 gold that Viper doesn't get. He's so close to getting tier 2 bounty. That's what you at least want at this stage in the game. He'll at least keep the other wolf running with him, and this should force a back moment from GUA, as he's going to look out for more villagers running through trying to wall him in. Meanwhile, Viper has 2 more wolves here, so he'll be able to hit that tier 2 bounty at least. That's guaranteed. And the tech up is beginning. He has gone for the Kremlin. I understand why he's doing this as well. It's really nice if you can get the Golden Gate, but which is your trade bone, by the way. But against the spear spam that you already see from GUA, you know you have to have some sort of defense, right? You don't want to be just caught with your trousers around your ankles taking a crap when the army turns up to siege you. And immediately he starts building the archery ranges. Remember, that's the direct counter to Spearman. Meanwhile, let's talk about different eco advantages being found by GUA, which is he's already on the water. This is like the one upside of having the river close to you, by the way. I mean, that, and if you really want to turtle, you can wall yourself in. I wouldn't necessarily advise it unless specific rush strategies are threatening you, right? But being closer to the water allows him to get his docks down, and then he's able to just fish on these fishing lines. In terms of how many there are, and remember, you can pass through these shallows. It's just bridges you can't pass through. He's got access to several here, so these fishing ships, like 5 of them, will be worth it and pay for themselves. As we go down here, you can see there's 2 more here, 3rd here, 4th. Am I just going to do 1, 2, 5, 6? I'm a terrible counter right now. There's like 7 here. So that's 7,000 fish that he'll have access to. That right now, Viper is not even countering or threatening or trying to yoink away from him. And it's quite annoying because in some ways you would like, as the Rust player, to have access to this easier, just because from a Rust player's perspective, it's even easier to utilize fishing because you don't have to worry about the dock being a million yards away because, of course, Russian fishing ships don't return to base. They just drop. Don't ask me how, guys. They just magic. What they do is they've basically trained pigeons. This is why I love Rust so much. It's clearly because they trained me to carry the fish back to base without eating it, all the way back to base where it will be reused into the economy. It's genius, really. How will it be reused in the economy? Making villages. How do you make villages with fish? Quite simple. Ladies get pregnant. And then there's just an infinite supply of fish being dropped off by pigeons at the hospital. I'm painting a weird picture of the world of Age of Empires, but don't blame me. This is simply how they made the game, okay? You can't tell me I'm wrong on this one. That being said, Archer's now starting to come out. No full base movement. Wouldn't expect it this early, but Viper's going to try and get a little Archer force out. I wonder if he tries to tech up quickly. He has to realize that he needs to kind of get some sort of eked out advantage, eco or otherwise, because obviously against the Abbasid Dynasty, as the game goes on, they'll unlock their gather rate increases, and that doesn't just affect food gathering, it affects everything. Very, very scary thing to watch out for when you're up against Abbasid players. Not to mention their second TC timing tends to be a bit more potent because they do play a bit more defensive. But I think Viper maybe has more rope to hang himself with potentially, just because the opening move from GUA invested so much into Spearman to secure map control that he shouldn't have to worry about an ultra-quick second TC. He might have to worry about his villies getting sniped if they don't turn around and kill this 16 health Spearman, though. Is he just going to get... He's going to get this for free because he's attacking multiple locations. Viper hasn't realized that he's losing a villy here. And that's the second one to fall. What? Okay, guys, it's a good thing we're not playing Red Alert because after a while, this Spearman would have been upgraded to a veteran and be murdering people quicker. It just doesn't look like he needs it, though, the way he's doing this. That is 3 villagers, and he's finally going to realize it, but oh, no, he can't get the final hit. He'll lose the Spearman. He almost gets a 3rd villager. Early eco damage like this, by the way, very important considering both of them are on a single TC at this stage. But first Golden Age has been reached, so that's a 10% booster to all gathering rates for all villager activities for GUA. Viper, where is he at? He's up to 330. I would love to see him get a stable, get 1 or 2 knights, and then just snipe out the boars. Then again, he could turn up to the boars playing fields with this many archers and a scout, which he'll probably do soon, and snipe out the boars, which remember, boars are worth 75 each. So you snipe out both of these, and you're almost at your required threshold, right? Then you just need to find 20 more bounty, which you can get from your tech 3, which is a cabin that generates more gold than normal hunting cabins, but also spawns a deer every 60 seconds. This focus fire is really effective, though. He's getting rid of the fishing boats, and Give You Anxiety is not really protecting him here. He's only got 1 arrow ship, but the volleys could easily still take down the fishing boats. But the repair, nice move by GUA. Yeah, we always have to remember, guys, the fishing boats can repair other naval units. It's a really funky interaction, and sometimes it's not that clear from a feedback loop perspective, because remember, if someone's under docks, they get repaired slowly anyway. So it can easily catch people off guard sometimes, especially with these factions that have similar-looking boats. Notice that while the archer ship is bigger, the design between the fishing and the Dhow ships is fairly similar. So it can be very easy to not notice that detail. And this fire will eventually kill off the Dhow ship. So GA is going to have to take note of this in a second. He's even losing the fishing ships. All right, this aggressive move from Viper. Me likey. Me big fan. So these wooden fortresses, they're more priced than outposts, but they're much more effective because they can hold up to 8 people compared to the 5. And I think they tend to have more health as well, if I recall correctly. Which, by the way, he hasn't taken use of these... Wait. Has he got a wooden fortress? Oh, yes, right. Okay, he's good. I was about to say he hadn't built a wooden fortress back in base, but then I remembered the Kremlin acts just like a wooden fortress, so he's getting that extra 20% wood return on all drop-offs. Really effective. And yeah, sniping out these archers. So he's just kind of pressuring out the Eco control and war really effectively, actually. I love this move from Viper. The snake is living up to his name as he slithers on into the food eco line for give you anxiety because he is reliant quite a bit on the food being generated here. He has a decent amount of workers back at base, but I think it's 10. Viper only has 8 people working on food right now. That's interesting, actually. So GUA, yeah, this is he ahead? I think he is. 33. Yeah, he's got like a 5 villager advantage. Because remember, it makes sense as well. GUA stuck in these early spearmen, which really screwed the lines. I think he must have sniped out like 4 or 5 villagers. And that's before counting in the occasional villager caught running to try and wall in the center. Right? So that's where that eco damage comes. And Viper hasn't boomed up with a second TC at all. Right? Instead, it looks like he's going into the Knights, and these Knights are going to be mainly to try and snipe out the Boars, which luckily for him, GUA hasn't sniped out himself yet. It's not that he couldn't either. He has a decent-sized army already. The Archer boys moving up, and some Horsemen as well. He's going to harass the Eco. The Eco advantage that GUA already has is about to expand further. As he moves straight out. Yep. Stabs at them. Can he get this Villy? Might be able to. He switches over to the Archers. Nice move there. Just getting rid of the military units, so definitely getting trade value. Needs to be careful the Knight now. And that will force the retreat out of the Peasants around the north side, so he won't be able to catch them off guard with the Spearmen and the Archers. He does need to be careful about exposing his Archers to this Knight, though. As remember, the Horsemen do not trade in melee very well at all. So yeah, the Spearman will change targets. And he chases in. If he can get vision round, he'll be able to snipe him out with the Archers. In he goes. He sees the tree line. Boo! Be able to get one, maybe a second one as well. Looks like it won't be able to though, but he has forced them all away from the stone and from the cabin. This is really important, by the way. Remember, Viper didn't go for the Golden Gate, so the only way he's getting stone is actually through the outcroppings here, and that will prevent him from getting a second TC. Meanwhile, on the other side, no second TC coming out from GUA, but remember, he's got this secondary source of food generation unit. What's the term I've been using it so much, and it's almost like I've broken it in my mind. Yeah, the food creation buildings, right, are the docks here. So he's getting fish over here. Meanwhile, Viper only has one building that can create his resource generating units. There's the word I was looking for. My brain frazzled out. I don't know why. So we'll snipe out some of this melee. It's cheap melee right now for GUA, though. And it's boxing in Viper. However, Viper, look at this sneak in. He defends base, and then he finds the back line, the tree line. They might lose so many workers here. Look how exposed they are. It's such a long run to safety. And he's going to get so many workers here. Goes deeper. Horsemen have been spawned. They've been rallied forward to try and assist here. But the Villy damage, like, even if you lose all the archers now, this is so worthwhile. Snipes more. Keeps cancelling his attacks. He's going for the Spearman now to try and protect his Knights. He will get a few of these, so probably going to lose all his archers, but it's going to be more or less an equal military trade, not to mention the eco damage he's done here. Yeah, so the Knights will be able to trade reasonably with the Horsemen. They'll eventually die, but they'll take 1 or 2 with them. So he does burn his force, but he repels the reinforcements from going to the front line, and he keeps not only this load off of the eco line, but I think he sniped almost half of these woodworkers, which is just a big deal at this stage. And also, they seem to be making a mistake. For some reason, GUA's people... What? Why? What? Guys, why are they gathering food? I don't think this was intended. They're meant to be on wood. Was this like one of these weird... Oh my god, I think I know what happened. And I think he didn't drop off the wood because of it. Either that or he done like a double click and he clicked the wood drop off and then clicked on the carcass. That's why he's collecting from carcasses right now. Remember, he's unlikely to notice this because 1, it's at the back of his base, and 2, it won't show up as idle villaging. They're being used as far as the game is concerned. And he's only going to realize it when... Look at his wood supply. When he realizes that he's actually limited on wood, that's when it'll clock that something's not right here. But he hasn't realized it just yet. GUA is gathering basically no wood at all. Wow, that is actually going to make a huge difference. That small mistake will actually cost GUA dearly here, as Viper will be able to start to boom up an advantage off the back of it, as he's actually gathering wood. Oh my god, he still hasn't realized. This is so painful to watch. GUA, I mean, just like think about it this way, right? What could he be building with all this wood? He could be building more archers for the early army spam. He could have spearmen. Oh, he finally realized it. But it's only because he was being threatened again. So actually, Viper kind of helped him out right now because this was such inefficient gathering that he'll probably realize finally that his people were not on the wood line and instead start working them in the base. Meanwhile, these archers keeping him off of his goal line as well. The pressure from Viper is impressive here, and he's kept all the pressure on this side of the map now, which means that Give You Anxiety is doing nothing in return. He gets rid of this wooden fortress finally, but he's not in Viper's base. Instead, the Snake slivers in and keeps all the eco at the back line busy and away from gathering. Woodline renewed on the north for Give You Anxiety. And I don't think he's likely to dive too much into the base. He's not going to get an opportunity to snipe out these berry gatherers right now. And I believe, yeah. Viper's teching up. Yep, so he got the tech up over here. He did go for the high trade house, and this is a big deal. The reason this is a big deal, guys, is now he can actually gather enough from the deer to get the bounty, and if he wants, he can send a small contingent to snipe the boars. The boars have still not been touched by either side, which really surprises me, because I think the archer army that GUA was running through here was big enough to snipe this out. And it will matter because it's a decent food gathering increase, an extra 5% for free, not to mention the fact that you also will get access to the quicker gold generation on cabins. So if this game starts to go long, Viper might consider just starting to build more of these cabins, which right now he's only built 2 of plus the high trade. So he's getting about 150 gold per minute out of these. I'll need to double check this, by the way. From what I've heard, apparently the GPM they provide is a little bit bugged because this number's meant to be every cycle, the 30 seconds or whatever it's at. I don't know if I believe that. I think it is this GPM. At least it feels like it from the numbers I've had. Knight's cornered. So he's going to lose this contingent. Viper is outnumbered in this fight, but he has been building a new massive forces. But also, he's been utilizing this time to just eco up a bit. Here you go, more hunting cabins going down. And by the way, this is also where Give You Anxiety is a huge disadvantage. Yes, he's very slow in comparison to take up, but that's not the big deal. The big deal are these lads right here. You see these fellas? Horse archers. And there hasn't been a counter to this so far. In fact, I don't think there's going to be a counter anytime soon. Like, what do you really go in this situation? You could go for camel riders, but you won't be able to necessarily reach the horse archers. Although it would counter both both the horse archers because they are considered cavalry units, as well as the knight spam from Viper. But they are costly to invest in. It's 180 food and 60 gold. And in terms of his income on that front, look how far behind he is. GUA is getting half the amount that Give You Anxiety is right now. He's getting so much value out of this extra gather rate on food while he keeps on hunting. Really big deal. And also second TC now coming out. I believe GUA is still 1 TC. Yeah, he still hasn't built a second one. So he's going to fall vastly behind in terms of eco now. And in fact, if we look at the numbers right now, it's 45 for Viper. GUA is up at 51. Remember, that does include these fishing ships that will eventually lose their value once these shoreline fish dry up, because unlike deep water fish, they do not regenerate. And this is not a good sign, by the way. GUA started to wall himself in. He's trying to protect his back line, but when you're forced to take this sort of approach, you really do feel like you're behind in this game. Like, this is the reason you're doing it, is because you're 100% behind. Because what this now means is Viper, he's going to prowl around the map. Maybe you can do a concentrated attack and catch him off guard if you win an initial fight. But for the most, you invest this extra resource to protect yourself. You're boxing yourself in, making it harder to naturally expand outwards. And you're essentially surrendering control of the majority of the map to Viper. Viper, who will now finally snipe out these boars, and with these hunter archers, these horse archers, is very easy. One volley, and it's just gone. 75 gold, 425. Now, if he goes and does it with the other one, because remember, GUA still hasn't sniped it out, he reaches tier 3 on the bounties. And that is when these hunting cabins really start to roll up their generation. So new TC line starting to get into the wood for Viper. And I don't see a move right now for GUA. I'm getting a little bit worried for him, actually. So no second TC, forced to completely turtle up. So you're behind economy, you're behind military, you're boxed in. There is some kind of tech booming and eco-booming advantages towards Abbasid Dynasty, but in my experience, and what I've seen of this faction so far, it plays around multi-TC boom. It's usually a duo or triple TC boom, which he's not doing in this game. He hasn't even got his level 2 Golden Age yet because he's up to 24 of these structures. Usually we see a complete branching with the multiple TCs. It just allows you to boom into the structures quicker and unlock those very, very tasty Golden Age advantages. Remember, second age increases the gather rate by another 5%, research speed goes up, and then tier 3 in late game with the production speeds, that's just insane. Wrap round, Viper, and this is just going to get picked apart. Any military skirmish from GUA is just too weak now. He's going to lose all of his outside units. There's not really anything you can do. These horse archers are just so potent at this stage in the game. Just look at it, 14 damage, 4.5 tiles. Isn't as high as archers, but the difference is 1.62 movement speed, so you can always zoom away. Now the Knights will begin burning down the docks, so I don't think he's finished actually draining this area of all its resources, and he's not going to get a chance to. As they'll just probably run up and down and just burn all the docks. And if you look, GUA isn't investing in ships on the water, right, to protect this. He's investing in Dow ships, because at this stage, it wouldn't really be that effective, and you don't actually have the wood income to support it. In fact, where is his wood income right now? Okay, they moved to a new wood line here, but they don't actually have that many on wood. He's putting more on it right now, but it's full priority to gold. I wonder if GUA is thinking, do I try and tech up? But the way he's spending his food suggests otherwise. He's actually starting to build the camel riders. I said this is the solution. The only issue I have with this is they're slow, right? It's the 1.6. Oh, they're not slow. They're 1.62, which means they're the same as the arrow, the horse archers, which means that Viper can just continue to kite you, move away, spam arrows into you. And in a large enough quantity, the fact that camel riders have 270 health just becomes irrelevant. Oh, wow. He sniped so many of these fishing ships as well. Charge in by the camel riders. He actually forces the engagement, so Viper's going to lose his troops quickly here. These Knights will not trade that well. In fact, he even put some Lancers in there as a distraction, so most of these Knights are almost dead. Remember, that damage is perma because you don't heal up like Chivalry from the French Knights. He even starts building the Camel Archers. I really like this move by GUA. So this will be the cool thing, right? In these fights, expect the Camel Riders to just keep pursuing the Horse Archers, and then the Camel Archers, anytime that the Horse Archers turn to trade, they're going to get hit not only by the Camel Riders, but then they're going to get hit by the Camel Archers. That's the plan here. And he wraps around them. Oh no, Viper! He's not microing this. He's going to lose all of them. Oh, they didn't get the other Horse Archer. They almost get a Knight, though. And that'll force them to back off. Now, this might start to come down to Sacred Sites at this rate. I think this is the move for GUA. This is the cool thing, actually, out of having these Palisade walls up. Because there's not an immediate entrance into the base, he can play more forward with his primary military force, leave less defending, and then possibly even play forward into Viper's eco lines, which are exposed, and try and maybe just eke out a Sacred Site victory to force awkward and rapid responses out of Viper. Moving in. Spots out the third TC. He's building more racks. He has got a little bit of an army here, but remember, this army is countered by the Camel Riders, so he won't trade that well. Charge is going to be there, but he gets disrupted by the Camel Riders. And straight away, he's the one to lose troops. Straight away, two of these Knights just get burnt through. Camel Riders just so goddamn potent with their bonus damage out against the cavalry units. And you seriously have to outnumber them to deal with this. Snipes out another Knight. Horse Archer is going to get popped as well. Plenty of Horse Archers, but still a nice little contingent of Archers. And I like this move by Viper. He needs to sneak in and get rid of these 6 Archers so that there can't be this like forced decent trade where when Viper turns around, he's punished with his Horse Archers. And once he does do that, that's the situation where these Horse Archers will just kite you and get favorable trades day and night. It's Viper chased into his base. He's under the Kremlin now, so that should scare away GUA. GUA, in the meantime, forcing Viper all the way back to his base. It now frees him up to move a new contingent up and not worry about this Treeculin just getting sniped out by the remaining forces of Viper. Because there are some just kind of AFK units right now, like look, the Horse Archers over here. Look at the Knights here. He could regroup them and get them in on the main assault, but instead, it just seems like he's treating them as kind of scouting, or maybe he forgot about them. I find it kind of weird that there's 5 Horse Archers just sitting here. Then again, if there is any attempt to re-expand by GUA, it's going to be shut down almost instantly by the Snake. 4th TC. I just called a mistake and it's fitting. 4 TCs now. And it's still 1 TC from GUA. This is becoming problematic. And he has to identify it, right? Like, he has to know that he's falling behind. He saw this TC. And when you see one this far forward, you're probably assuming that this is probably the 3rd TC, and he'd be right. So his eco is going to be burnt up quickly. GUA needs a victory in, like, the next 5 minutes, I want to say. I think he's got 5 minutes to have an impact. He's got a reasonably sizable army, but he needs to find a way of utilizing it. And right now, it is not specialized towards sieging buildings, which means you're not shutting down the TC expansions of Viper. And he's going for the camel support. Okay, so this is going to be really effective for the archers, as well as any spearmen he brings out. Remember, the camel support, the way it works is you give +1 armor to nearby infantry. That does affect these veteran archers as well. But does this mean he's going to let up on the camel rider production? That's what I'm curious of right now. It could suggest that. Because that's the thing. Otherwise, if he was going to invest heavily into camel riders, he would have got camel rider shields. It's just they're so pricey for him right now, right? Like, it's a little bit of gold, a decent chunk of food, and he has got a decent amount of gold, but his food is kind of suffering. I feel like ever since he lost the fishing ships, he's been behind. The Horse Archer army just keeps growing. There's really no answer to this right now. I think you could try and build in the Springalds if you're giving anxiety, but we just talked about the gold food situation. He can't afford to invest in like a melee frontline and in these Springalds right now with this sort of production rate. That's the limitation he's kind of suffering a bit. In fact, if anything, I'd say Viper's the one who could go for Springle spams. And then the Springle spams will snipe out the camera riders, and then everything else doesn't trade well. And yeah, straight away, cross to capture the sites. Of course, remember, Russ has the advantage on quickly getting across to capture these sacred sites with the warrior monks, which ride on horseback. This also would trickle him more gold, and that's why we're going to see a move by Give You Anxiety to pick one up as well. He has got his hands on a relic, so probably return that for an extra 100 gold treacle per minute. Expansion's over here from Viper, so he's getting plenty of food in this area. That hasn't been scouted out by GUA either. He doesn't see it with his knights riding through, so he won't be able to harass this line that was very far out and unprotected from Viper. There are plenty of archers here. Should cover the pickup for the warrior monk. And remember, he's going to be able to return these further out relics to his base much quicker than Give You Anxiety can with the imams. As one is an old man who wasn't given a horse for some sort of rude and, I don't know, like, I don't understand why you wouldn't give the old man the horse situation, right? I don't know if it's... You know what it is, guys? The imam was like, I'm peaceful. I don't want to fight. I'm chill, bro. Okay, you don't get a horse. Meanwhile, warrior monk's like, dog, I was a warrior in my young age. I requiesce the Pache out of there, and now I'm ready to requiesce the Pache some more people to death. All right, that guy, give him a spear, give him a horse, send him out. Warrior monks, ladies and gentlemen. For those that don't know how warrior monks work, they actually inspire and give bonus armor and damage when they start engaging in combat. So it basically creates an aura every time they're attacking nearby for allied units. Fight going on. There is a Mangonel, so GUA does have a big advantage here, and a sizable amount of archers. Remember, they're more cost-effective than these horse archers. But look, he's actually exposing his archer line, so a few of these knights are going to charge in. Focus fire to try and get through the main archer contingent is an important detail here, because the knights right now from GUA, like all these lancers are actually focused on just trying to get rid of the wooden fortress. And most of the archer contingent's gone from GUA. Viper needs to get more out here. Wallalow attempt. Okay. GUA got himself a vet archer. Woohoo! Most underwhelming Wallalow reveal I've seen so far. But we'll take it, we'll take it. Mangonel is going to be left behind for GUA. He doesn't even get a final hit out, which would have killed half of these horse archers. And now with his Mangonel, look at this. Look at how clustered the archers are. Camel tries to ride in to get some melee action, but the advantage is now in the favor of the snake, as Viper is going to be able to chase down all of these archers in retreat. And this was the worrying situation that Give You Anxiety was trying to avoid. The moment he's forced to fall back, he can lose so many troops on the retreat. He actually might also lose his imam. Nope, no relic for you. What just happened to him? Is it me, or did it just look like the imam got crushed by the relic? I mean, it's a heavy thing for an old man to carry. Essentially, where he was, this landed. I'm pretty sure what just happened here is in Mario style, the same way he jumps up and down on top of things. We just watched a relic squash an imam priest. A few knights in the back line. They have been chased down, though, so they might snipe a villager or two, but that should be about it. Give you anxiety, not getting too much eco damage. And, I mean, Viper, like, this is so inconsequential, we can replace it any time. He's up at a nice mass of eco right now, 96, so about the 100 unit mark should sustain you to then spam out armies for the remaining 100. So expect him to just keep producing mass horse archers. Mass horse archers that aren't being addressed completely. There are Springles being produced by GUA, but he hasn't gone for another Mangonel. That being said, these Springle ranges, like, they will be able to trade very effectively. There's the new Mangonel finally coming out from Give You Anxiety. He's starting to build it, because remember, that's one of the things the Abbasid have. They can actually construct siege weapons with their infantry. Except trebuchets. Apparently that's too complicated. It's kind of weird when you think about it as well, guys. Like, realistically, trebuchets weren't as much packed up as they were just built on a spot, right? Trebs would have made more sense. But remember, this is an age of realism. This is age of Wallalow, I mean empires. Looking like the age of Viper right now, though. Neither of them were teched up, but now there we go, Viper making the move. He's going for the high armory forward. Now remember, this is a very important thing, because not only does it decrease the cost of siege engines from nearby workshops, but one of the unique siege engine technologies it contains increases the range of Springles by another 2, which means if they both start going Springles, Viper will have the advantage. What I will not have is a Mangonel, though. That Mangonel is gone. One hit and it just goes kaput. I'm pretty sure if someone coughs on that Mangonel right now, it falls to pieces. And more villagers brought in to construct this quicker. Springall's going to spot out what's going on. Mangonel. Oh, the damage to the villagers. I don't think he's going to complete this tech up in time. Or maybe he is. The crossbows scare them away. The knights are not going to last long against this. He splits up the forces, engages the main line so they can't try and pursue into the workers. Horse archers keeping the main cluster of the veteran archers busy. So eventually he will end up losing these forces because there's just too many archers here, but he completes the tech up. He reaches tech 4. With that, reinforcements on the way. Spearmen coming out, horse archers as well. Viper just looking to resupply his front line. And the horse archer backstab. They're cutting off the split forces here. They're going to find a smaller group of archers here, which they'll be able to run down and kill off quickly. That was the replenished forces for Give You Anxiety. Once they regroup, this should force Viper off, but once again, it forces GUA to look at his back. He wants to be moving forward, but he's constantly having to deal with this poke, this harass, this frustrating snake biting him in the arse. And no siege weapons just yet. Oh, of course, these are siege weapons, but they aren't designed for sieging buildings. They are anti-siege, the Springolds. And they are exposed. GUA? What's going on? What? What? What just happened? He just walked his Springolds into their death. What? Oh, that is so costly. Remember, 200 gold each, 200 wood. And gold's going to become a little bit more scary to grab. You can already see GUA's trying to fix that by moving out over here. But if this ever gets spotted out by Viper, you'll just get burned. And he doesn't have horse archers in the area. He just doesn't know this is happening right next to him. This would be such a big eco here if Viper spotted it. Instead, he's going to be distracted by the center fight. Has he got a Mangonel out? No Mangonels just yet. He's been healing up with his priests. Not enough forces really here to deal with this many of the archers, though. And his horse archers should fall pretty quick to this. Yep, they're going to be overran, backing up. Viper has plenty of food, wood, and gold. He actually just needs to go on a mass spam of horse archers, which he's doing now. And the small melee force will force the retreat out of GUA's troops as he fires on the run. But look at the range. Look at the range now. This is where the horse archers get powerful. Remember, you've got 5 tower range compared to now the 6.5. So these horse archers can always kite out the veteran archers, and there's still no solution from GUA, who is still locked into tech 3. Not to mention the fact it's elite man at arms, right? So he's still not producing crossbows. So these guys are so tanky, it's ridiculous. Horse archers back up. Looking for those trades. Forces more the veteran archers to chase forward. Man-at-arms coming in behind them. This is all in. GUA's army is about to get spent. Crossbows and the Springolds are going to waste some time as well. More horse archers coming. He's not producing units at a fast enough rate at this pace. Like, they're just getting melted for it. 16 compared to the 9 damage, extra health, and extra range. So you know the horses are going to come out ahead for Viper. It's almost the whole army gone. He started to switch over to crossbowmen, but these just aren't really effective against the horsemen. Remember, these are light-range cavalry, so they don't have extra protection. And the forward keep! Viper smells the blood. I don't know if he's a Viper as much as a shark, because he is just swimming in the water, and he is definitely the apex predator at the moment. Knocking on the door of the base. Keep will go up quickly. This is where you can start to produce into different siege or just construct them on the front line here, as he has got a spam of man-at-arms and crossbows coming out. So he's answering every single thing GUA can come at him with right now, and this is scary. GUA, he's building a very defensive keep. He hasn't rebuilt this line. This is exposed right now, but Viper doesn't know. The problem is that it doesn't really matter when your frontline defenses at this stage in the game aren't even stone walls, they're palisades. So these will not last long. Full gold mine being committed. Viper wants to keep that income up. And right now, Viper, yep, he's trickling out everything he can. GUA has huge food issues. This is the problem as well. Like, practically any type of unit he could build into is going to require a large chunk of food. So while the gold gathering is good, everything else is suffering. And look at the line. He found it. He found one of the gold lines. That's so many villages dead. Oh, my God. And if he chases further out, look what else he'll find. There's 21 workers he still hasn't spotted that GUA has on a front line mining gold. And there was just no answer from GUA. Viper has to feel that he's about to win this as well. He has to understand that there would have been an army to try and at least buffer him off of this gold mine, if there was an army at all. GUA, probably one final hoorah, and then done. So he's going to amass what he can before the siege force comes, but the bombards have started to be built. And this is where things get scary, especially with those tech upgrades. Look, he's decreasing the reload time on the bombards, so it will not take long for him to siege through this keep and then just get full access to the base. At this point, GUA might just leave a little post-it note on one of these palisades, seeing I left the keys to the house under the map, buddy. Ooh, make yourself at home. Because at this rate, GUA has no place on this map. His wood line's running out here. Wood's running out here. He's burnt pretty much every spendable resource he has access to, right? So even his wood's going to suffer very soon. And his food production just isn't good enough. Like, Viper is ahead of him in every regard. And eco-wise, this is kind of the punishment, right? He finally got to this Villi count, but it took him so long in the game because it's a single TC this whole game. Bombards. Remember, faster reload time is complete. Yeah, it's complete. So they'll siege this quicker than you can actually repair it. You're going to lose the keep to just double bombard. One more hit will do it, and it's kaput. And as soon as it is, the horse archers get ready to go in. Villi's exposed. Everything is exposed here. This was too quick for GUA to amass the army he was looking for, and they'll be able to run through these troops pretty quick. Man-at-arms are in. Decent amount of crossbows, but they're being sniped out in the meantime by the horse archers. And not many troops that he can replace at this stage, not with his eco and shambles. GUA, I think this is where he's just going to throw in the towel. As you can see how quickly these elite horse archers are burning his contingent force. And there is no contingency plan past this. It's going to be GG. Give you anxiety. He gives it his best effort. But the Viper, he proves why he's #1 on the leaderboard, as he does Russ in style. What a play. Honestly, really well played by GUA to keeping this as long as he did. I didn't like the generation. I did feel that that gave a slight advantage to Viper, but the more important detail is that Viper min-maxed his eco in the early game. He didn't actually feel forced or compelled to respond too aggressively to GUA's early harassment with the Spearman, understanding he was going to have to cut that off at some point because obviously Spearman spamming as Abbasid Dynasty can very easily be countered by these high-level players. And he took full advantage of that, switched into a few archers, and then just eco-boomed. Going for the double TC was a valuable play, understanding that he can be patient and then snipe out the docks later, because what usually happens is if a player can get their hands on the ocean and then get their hands on the fishing supplies, sometimes, especially when they go for this early military aggression in the Second Age, you can almost predict that they're not going to be TC booming. So he just kind of bided his time, scouted out the appropriate information, goes to harass the back lines knowing that even if it's just kind of bad trades, the eco damage is worth it because, well, he'll have multiple town centers to replace his lost workers with. Give you anxiety the whole time is still functioning off of one TC for that entire game.